America, America, God shed his light on thee. Ooh, I think I'm messing up the words. Quiet. All right. Welcome to the second episode of No Name Nashville. I'm your host, Kirk. I should come up with like a co-host, my imaginary friend Ted or something. So a lot's happened this week in the music industry. I've got a lot to talk about. I want to. It's July 4th in 2 days, and I want to talk about a little bit about what country music has meant to me, and how it relates to my patriotism, and just like the relationship I feel like country music has with freedom and with motivating what it did for me, I think, as a soldier, and motivating me. So we'll get into that. But let's see, I've got some notes. I love the notes that I put in. So I just have like a notes, my notes app on my phone. And this, the first note is Tenille Towns okay? And let me go over to her album and just read out some of the song titles. By the way, I loved the album Lemonade Stand, released last weekend. I've been a huge fan, and I really appreciate that the album. So the in thing to do, it seems like, in Nashville, especially for, I think this is her first album release. The in thing to do is to waterfall the releases. So they do like one or two singles, and then they do like an EP, maybe one more single, and then they release the album. And then for some artists, especially a popular country duo that has recently released an album, that just means they're going to release like one or two B-side songs, or songs that should be B-sides, and get you to listen through the entire album again and then feel dumb. No. But what I loved about Tenille Towns' album was that there were actually some standouts that I really love. But yeah, let me, Holding Out for the One, Where You Are, Come As You Are, Find You. I mean, essentially half of the album is about her waiting for some guy, or feeling hurt by F-boys, possibly here in Nashville. And I just bring this up because, guys, I need Tenille Towns to be okay. All right? Tenille Towns has big Dolly Parton energy. And, obviously, like, Dolly Parton is going to live forever. We know that. But, she needs to have, in her older days, like, it's like the Queen over in England. What is her name? Elizabeth? Queen Elizabeth. How she's, starting to give up some of her royal duties. And I think in country music right now, we have a couple contenders for Vice Dolly Parton. And obviously the other one is Lauren Elena. I think, honestly, we're going to need them to Dolly Parton off at each other, which would essentially just be a compliment off, and they'll just hurl compliments at each other, and then just the last woman standing loses because Dolly. I don't know how this contest is. I have no clue. But anyways, we need to make sure, as it's like when the vice president or like the someone who's running for president gets Secret Service protection. It's the same thing with Dolly Parton, with Tenille Towns. We need her to be okay. And if we need to find some like Middle Eastern prince, obviously we're gonna have to convert him to Christianity, and then, we need to make sure she's okay. I'm really worried about her. But yeah, anyways, I loved this album. It's awesome. Check it out if you haven't. I added to my playlist, I've added When I Meet My Maker. actually I added that to the No Name Nashville playlist. Check that out. But to my personal playlist, I've added Come As You Are, Find You. And then I think I had Somebody's Daughter already like added previously. And then, I've got a bunch of things to talk about today. It was a weird week with the whole Chase Rice concert. And I think the way that I kind of want to approach this is, I knew I wanted to share this, but I'm going to give some background as to why I've decided, to take the step into the music industry. Like why would I want to work here? Here's why. So I grew up in a very restrictive household. My dad was a pastor. And a lot of kids grew up in scenarios like that where it was just, looking back to me, religiously toxic, just kind of weaponizing spirituality. There's something interesting that I think really relates to all of this, what I'm getting into. But the 30 Tigers president will regularly say, we want our artists, we want their art to flow from them as if inevitable. And I think that's very important for an artist. But I think just in life in general, to millennialize this, you're living your best life, but you're really like fulfilling your passions and you're fulfilling your calling when it flows from you as if inevitable. I feel like there's almost a spiritual energy to that. And I still very much am a man of faith and believe that we all have an individual calling and that God has created us or designed us, with our own unique set of skills and gifts that the world needs, and that we're not fulfilling that purpose when we're restricted, when we're not free. So, after leaving sort of that atmosphere, I went to school, went to a very, very restrictive school as well. It was a military academy, and it was a great place for me to learn a lot about myself, learn a lot of life lessons, and get an education, obviously. But then went from there straight into the Army, which also, it's the military. And again, looking back, I can't imagine my life without the military. It was definitely the place for me to grow. It gave me structure to kind of deal with just a lot of the things that I needed to work through to become the man that I believe I am today. So all good things, but when I made the decision to get out of the military, I was just thinking a lot about what things that were important to me. And, as a soldier, one of the things that people say a lot, like, soldiers fight for what? Soldiers fight for freedom. And I've had some friends say some pretty interesting things. So if you thought of that, or said some pretty interesting things when I've said that sentence to them. So if you thought of something different, no worries. But I think we can all agree, like, that's kind of the saying, right? Like, soldiers fight for freedom. And looking to get out, I realized that you get deployed. I got deployed twice, and coming back, it just, you have sort of like a worldly perspective, possibly, and more and more than ever. And then even right now, for me personally, I believe that through this pandemic, like, people sort of just are giving their freedoms away. So, as a soldier, I've really believed that it was my job to protect those freedoms. And now people seem back at home to just be willing to, like, completely give them up. And I think that, life often mimics art. And when I look at, just take country music, for example. When I look at country music, you have a lot of artists that they aren't producing art that is organic to them. And so coming to Nashville, I really wanted to, like, work with a company that, or learn from a company that I believed was allowing artists to let art flow from them as if inevitable. And, I think it's really important for artists' individual voices to be heard. And I think that, like I said earlier, life often mimics art. And I think that something that the American people may need right now is just to see some fiercely independent, almost freedom idea fighters. And that may seem super meta, but it's just kind of what I believe in. That's why I decided to intern with 30 Tigers. I feel like supporting independent artists, providing label services to them, allows them to produce the art that they're meant to produce. Obviously there's a partnership there and there's a give and take, but largely these artists are just the art goes untouched and it's completely organic to them. And I think that's a super powerful thing today more than ever. Yeah. So looking at the situation with Chase Rice, I think it was a bad idea. I think you could have probably predicted the media firestorm that would have followed, or at least the attempted cancellations to follow. And it largely was just a bad idea just from a PR perspective. That being said, the concert took place in a state where death rates are dropping, where hospital capacity is going up. And I understand that those things are happening in a spike in cases. But if we're looking at flattening the curve and getting through this, then I believe personally the most important things are hospital capacity, ensuring we're keeping up with the virus, and we don't want people dying, obviously, from this unnecessarily. So I just say that to say, like, some of the statistics, I believe, cast doubt on the idea that just because you have a concert or you do something like that you are supporting the death of a large amount of people. Like, it's the numbers to me just don't support that. So I think that artists, and I think especially country music fans, should be able to assess and mitigate their own risk. In the military, we're always taught, don't run from risk, mitigate it. And, I've been wearing my mask because even though it does worry me quite a bit that I'm constantly touching the mask and I put it down on surfaces and then I put it on my face, I'm not sure. I understand that right now that's something that makes people feel like we're mitigating this risk, and I want to be part of the team in that effort. But I think that, that's my decision. And I think that in America, the reason that this is America is because we're free. I mean, are we free to make stupid decisions? I think that's what it comes down to. Can people answer that question? Are we free to do stupid things? And obviously, with the concert, those were within local and state guidelines for having a concert. I mean, they scanned just under 900, so like 890 tickets for a venue that was supposed to hold 10,000. There was plenty of space to spread out, and obviously some people up front didn't do that, but I've also seen evidence in Instagram pictures, and actually spoke with one of the ladies that was there, and she said, we in our friend group stood in the back, and some people were a little smarter about going to this concert. I wouldn't have gone to this concert. I wouldn't have made that decision, but I don't feel like it's my place to decide for those people whether or not they should. I just think that country music needs to continue to support just freedom of expression, and that may mean freedom through a pandemic. I don't know. That's probably controversial, but I want to say that again, that I didn't think it was a wise move, but I also understand that it was those fans' decisions to go to that concert. It was that venue's decision, and they had the freedom to put on they were following the laws. They had the freedom to do it. Maybe it wasn't the smartest thing, but they were able to do it. And so they did. And I'm always going to err, personally, I'm just going to always err on the side of people being freer. And that stays consistent through what I think about artist expression and them being allowed to express themselves freely without the possible influence of a big label. So yeah, anyways, that's what I thought about that situation. Yeah, I wanted to go through and just kind of like talk about some of my favorite. I watched a bunch of military country music videos. Some of these music videos, the song didn't even relate to the military, but they themed it. And I just want to say that if you thought I was going to say something to the effect of military music videos or military country music songs are patronizing to the military, I absolutely do not support that. I love country music relationship with the military. I think it's really special. And it's honestly, I've always really felt cared about or cared for what me and my soldiers were doing. I felt cared about by the country music. I felt seen. That's a modern word. Some of the biggest names in country music that have almost made a name off singing about the military. I like, Toby Keith, obviously. Toby Keith is obviously the number one name. I mean, he's done almost 300 USO shows, and I've been one of the people that have been at those shows, and that's really meant a lot to me. I love how country music, and especially songs like the ones that Toby put out, like American Soldier and Courtesy of the Red, White, and Blue, whatever you think about the wars that we're on and some people forget are still in, whatever you think about those, he really gave us something to, he gave us a song to sort of grab a hold of. And I think not just us, but our families. And it was a boot in our ass too, I feel like. It's just a motivating song. And I love that country music kind of pushed us out the door with a bunch of support up front. And then now there's a growing trend. There's Someone I Used to Know by Zac Brown Band, that music video. And also the Cover Me Up, Morgan Wallen version, the music video for that short film. They're both dealing with PTSD. So it's almost as if country music now, seeing what soldiers have gone through over the last decade, 2 decades, they're kind of giving us art to heal to. And I really appreciate the support on either end. I love country music. I love their relationship with soldiers, and I really appreciate it. So yeah, I wanted to go through some of my favorite music videos, and then just one music video at the end that was patronizing. And I just want to give my views on like what makes it patronizing, and hopefully in the future, a lot of these music videos get it right, but in the future, just hopefully give some tips on what you can do to keep a music video from being patronizing to soldiers. So I mentioned Toby Keith. In American Soldier, I actually was watching that video and seeing these guys, they had dressed up in like flat brim hats. And I was like, who is it? They give us like British hats. Like what is this bullshit? They didn't even do any research. And then I went in and checked. They're actually our helmets during World War II. So Toby Keith's American Soldier video taught me something about American soldiers. So I was absolutely wrong. And I was, getting a little stick up my ass about that, and then just realized that, no, I was wrong. So actually, they did do their homework in that video. I'm thankful for, in particular, the 2 videos that have stuck out to me the most are Zac Brown Band's Someone I Used to Know, which is, I think, it just does a great job. Like you can definitely put yourself in those shoes. I think it like gives a very good picture of what it's like, I think, coming back, feeling alienation, and then just the effects of PTSD. And honestly, like one of the things I love the most about that music video is that there's like a little video from Zac Brown at the end. He really relates it to the rest of society. And I think as far as civilian military relationships go, more than ever, there's what we call a warrior class, and a small percentage of, not only a small percentage of soldiers that serve, but also of the general population, but also a small percentage of families. So a lot of soldiers are generational, and that just means that with that warrior class, a lot of Americans, since there's a small percentage, a small network of soldiers, a lot of Americans don't know soldiers. They're, sometimes misrepresented or underrepresented. And I think understanding that issues like PTSD are not just soldier issues, but they're issues that are similar, at least, to feelings that civilians have. It just kind of brings us together. And I really appreciate Zach Brown Band and someone I used to know bridging that gap. Cover Me Up. The music video, obviously this is a Jason Isbell song and an incredible song. And it's not really anything related to the military, but it tells, a soldier with PTSD who has come home. When I watch this music video, I can relate to it so strongly because I have a friend who has done the same things or has experienced the almost exact same situations that are represented in that video. We're talking about a guy a grown-ass, really tough, man that I love, a soldier that I've worked with, who his wife will find him curled up in a ball in his closet because just of some of the terrible memories that he has, or times where he'll have a traumatic episode or a flashback and pass out and roll down his stairs. Just some terrible things. And, that's a guy that I constantly check up on because of, at the end of the video, you're always just wanting that soldier to understand that they're loved. And so that's, especially as soldiers begin to come home and as there's a growing population of soldiers that have come home with PTSD and who are experiencing the effects of that, I think it's such a great representation of it, and it really allows people to understand what it's like. I love Trace Adkins, Still a Soldier. I believed that it was a soldier at the very beginning, and then it turns out that it was. It was just telling the story of an actual soldier. Keith Urban's For You. What I wrote down is, this is a cheesy soldier music video done right. I loved the random unnecessary explosions, looking at the band through binoculars, cutting away to seals. It was cheesy, and I hope it seemed like there was some awareness of that, and I just loved it. It was entertaining. Carrie Underwood's Just a Dream. This is a song and then a music video that is so good it sucks. It starts with her walking down. It keeps cutting back to her walking down an aisle in her wedding dress, and then as she gets closer and closer to the altar, they keep cutting back to this scenario. As she gets closer to the altar, it turns into a black dress, and you realize that the soldier has died. It's incredibly it's an emotional music video. I will say I've been to a Carrie Underwood concert, and there came a point where you realized that the purpose of what she was doing, she wanted people to feel emotional. She wanted people to get a little riled up emotionally. And so then she started playing stock footage, just random stuff that you always see of soldiers. And it just felt distant. I felt disconnected from it. And to me, that's where stuff can get patronizing, where you're just using images of soldiers, and not just images of soldiers, but like burials of soldiers to get an emotional reaction from the crowd. That's messed up. to me. But in situations like that where the just think about the intention. What are you using those images to? What is is it to honor, or is it to, oh, we can use this, we can flash this image just to get people riled up? It's disrespectful to me. Lee Bryce's "I Drive Your Truck." Lee Bryce, this music, this song, this music video is where I feel like I took my first step into deep diving into country music, because I started to realize I really connected with the story, and I realized it's from the perspective of driving his truck once he's dead. Like, just the imagery, just the storytelling in that song, I realized, wow, this is something that I really connect to. And there's a million songs like that in country music. And I just realized, I feel like for the first time with that song that, my fandom of country music could go a little deeper, and I could connect a little harder. Now, this is the video that I hated, honestly. And if you're watching this, please, country music, listen to these lessons. I'm just going to go through some of the things that I saw, and it sucks because I love this artist. I respect this artist. He's the king of emo dirt. The song's 1,000 Graves, and it's Rustin Kelly. His video for that, bro, it's just atrocious. So it starts off with this very young looking female soldier with full bird colonel rank on. And I don't understand you guys to know our ranks. A full bird colonel. So I have a friend who, her mom was a full bird colonel. And so like this would have, this woman had like children when she was a full bird colonel. She had like children in college. She's not some like green 21-year-old or 19, even younger. Who knows? So right off the bat, you're just, something's up here. They obviously just from the very beginning haven't done any research. This is completely inaccurate. They cut away to a couple different other things and then come back. She's now a fuzzy, we call them in the military, where she's not wearing any rank, which usually means that this is a private. So she goes from full bird, which is an 06, down to an E1, just jumping 16 ranks. Right after that, you see a shot where they're wearing ACU blouses in their. This always this happens in Hollywood all the time. We never wear our uniforms with the Velcro up and around our neck, almost like a ASU turtleneck. No one wears it like that. And you just start to realize, what you start to realize is that there's no way the person that created this video has talked to anyone in the military about making this. So there's obviously no even an attempt at understanding the traditions, and I mean, you guys should know this. Like, I feel like you guys know this. Like, we take great pride in representing you guys in our uniforms, and we take great care in like making sure that the uniforms are put together. Like, there's a very strict culture around that. I saw that during the protests, the National Guard, there was a guy in a uniform walking around, and the National Guard immediately identified the guy, because we can tell immediately that the guy doesn't know how to wear the uniform. And so, I'll be honest with you, like, sometimes I feel like, oh, am I just being like too sensitive about this stuff? But it really, honestly, man, I would think that if you're making a music video with soldiers in it, you would want soldiers to feel a sense of pride about like the job that you've done. And even like as the video moves forward, so there's patches, all the patches are wrong. They're just complete. The uniforms are effed, man. The storyline of the music video is that this officer is like a lieutenant, is going to now, like, they're going to fall in love in a deployed environment and start having sex, which is not legal according to military law. No one gets to have sex on deployments. Happens a lot. So, like, I don't really care if like that's something that's represented. I honestly, I don't, because like it's accurate, but at least get the uniforms right. Show that you care. If you're going to make us all look like shit by showing 2 soldiers fucking while they're deployed, being completely unprofessional, this lieutenant's like screwing one of his soldiers, just like, that's an absolutely, it was definitely something I never would have done. Before these 2 have sex, the girl's just standing there, like wiping down the stock of her rifle, like the handguard, and then, you know, it shows her doing that, and then looking up at him sitting on a bench with, I mean, the bench had like, I mean, dude, come on, at least give us like 245 plates. The bench had like 10 pound on either side. It looked like they'd pulled it from a garage sale or something. And then the guy's just like sitting there with his dog tags out like a douchebag with his shirt off. And then there's like random guys with their shirts off and ACU pants in the background. So then they, you know, as I would have expected, if all you're doing is just like standing around with your shirt off in an outpost and fucking your soldiers, they get absolutely obliterated. There are a lot deeper problems than just them sleeping with each other. They're not conducting any type of security. So yes, they get absolutely wasted. And at one point it shows the female soldier wearing her helmet the wrong direction. So that's cool. I think I would expect as a soldier to, like, you know, give some artistic license and understand that that's a thing. But I think where this becomes patronizing, I feel like in the music video, what they were looking for was just a love story, right? And they decided to put a little twist on it by making it a love story in the military. And so to me, if you're going to then use the military to put that little twist in your story, you don't get to just half-ass it. Because, I mean, do I need to explain that? Like, it's just, it was really disappointing, the entire music video. I think it's important to remember that when you make a music video involving the military, you know, that really like has an impact on how people view us. So are you bringing dignity to that image and the sacrifice that's happened? Or are you just completely and utterly not even half-assing it, just to add an edge to your story? And go ahead, involve the military. I feel like in this episode, you know, I've showed that I love the support, but don't do it at the expense of making us look like absolute doofuses, because that's what you're representing. And I will say, like, check out the music video because it's got a cool ending. Like, even though again it's shitty and makes us look, you know, I would hope that wouldn't happen, and that's just kind of a weird thing to like hone in on with the military. But yeah, check it out. I'm gonna put a bunch of some of my favorite military songs for the July 4th weekend. So check that out. No Name Nashville playlist on Spotify. And we'll be back next week. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.